Bellefontaine, and you're listening to the Homebuyer's Hour. Good morning, everybody. And today we're going to talk mostly about the VA mortgage process, and also the inspection, the attorney, everything that comes with it, and also the FHA stuff. In the studio with us, we have Karen Byrne. She's been with us before. I highly respect her, and I just saw her on a VA deal not all that long ago. Karen, if you don't mind, introduce yourself, please.
Okay, my name is Karen Byrne, and I am with At Properties out of Elmhurst. You can reach me at 708-203-4474 or Karen Byrne, KarenByrne, at atproperties.com.
I used to live in Elmhurst and stuff like that from 1991 to 2001 is when we sold. It's a proud community. It says so right on the sign.
Absolutely.
As you enter it. That's how I know. You know, it's also in Tree City, USA. Patrick, I know. Why is he saying this stuff? Because every suburb in the Chicagoland area is Tree City, USA.
Is it?
Pretty much.
I don't know. Is Aurora Tree City, USA?
Yes, definitely it is.
It is?
It is now.
I'm going to look that up.
You do that.
Charlie's got his own list of Tree Cities.
We need fact checking on that, I think.
I don't know.
Charlie's Tree City list. It's he's just added 3 more because I just started naming suburbs. What do we got? Like 175 suburbs. You wanted me to introduce myself. I'm Patrick Loftus. I'm a real estate lawyer. Hire me when you want to make your home sale or purchase go smoothly. Find me on social media. That seems to be the place to find me these days. On Instagram, I am Loftus_law. And on TikTok, I'm at Loftus Law. Yeah, that's about it. I was going to say some stuff about Elmhurst, but I'm just going to keep it to myself.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you for keeping it to yourself. I know that's difficult.
I'll tell you after.
Sounds good. Joey, please give us your lowdown. How do people get hold of you? And then once you're done with that, I want to know what you mean by new circular released, all the good stuff. So please introduce yourself.
Do you live in Tree City, USA, Joey?
No, he lives in the desert.
No, I don't. I live in Sand City. There's a lot of sand.
Is
a lot of sun. We'll call it Sun City.
Are cacti considered trees, though?
Sun City, that's in Huntley.
Sun City. Joey, you don't qualify for Sun City yet. But I can see Joey someday. He's going to be driving around a version of Sun City in his golf cart with like 3 loofahs off the back.
He's going to have a golf cart that looks like a Tesla super truck.
It's going to be a stainless steel golf cart. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Joey.
We're being
mean. I sure will.
He's sick of my crowd.
I apologize for how I sound ahead of time. I am on my phone, not my usual, but I just got into Chicago and am currently walking around inside of a park.
Where were you?
Where
were you? You were traveling?
Costa Rica.
This guy.
Yes,
nice.
sir. So that's
Nice.
why I wasn't available last week. I was in the air.
Yeah, we missed you.
Anywho, so yeah, Joey Mathews, NMLS 1330694. The VA Loan Nerd. You can find me at the VALoanNerd.com across all the social medias as at the VA Loan Nerd. You can call or text me at 630-235-2405. And obviously, the VA loan is the best loan. So the big thing that has happened in real estate lately is the NAR lawsuit and how everyone was handling that. And the VA finally sent out their at least temporary fix until they actually put it in the handbook. So they released what's called a circular. And in the circular, it stated how the VA would treat buyers paying broker comp, right? In this buyer-broker issue. And the VA will allow the veteran to pay out of their own funds for their buyer agent commissions, right? So that was what everyone was talking about. VA offers are going to be so weak. They're going to be so weak. They can't pay commissions. Well, now they can. The VA does try to, they prefer the buyer not doing that and, making sure that they have it set up where the seller is still paying. And if the seller is paying, it is not going to be applied to the concession limit. It would be considered part of the closing costs. It just has to be listed properly on the closing disclosure at the table. They don't need an invoice. So a lot of great things coming out of it. It does not go into effect until August 10th. But that was the big news from yesterday from the VA, because everyone, at least in my world, with a bunch of VA dorks like myself, has been trying to figure out how the VA was going to handle it. Obviously, if you can also, base it on your purchase price, pad it a little bit, and say, hey, please pay my agent's commission, right? But that's how that went down. And obviously, there's news in the financial world today. The Fed is ending their meeting in a couple hours, and they will make their interest rate decision. I will say they're still not going to cut this month, but they do have more reason to cut this year. Labor markets have been weak, minus the non-farms payroll report last week that made very little sense, came in very hot, over 100,000 jobs over what was expected. However, today, the consumer price index numbers got released, and they were lower than expected across the board. So we've seen a nice market reaction from that. The 10-year Treasury yield closed out at just under 4.5% yield yesterday, and we are now under 4.3% yield. And mortgage-backed securities have jumped up, which is good for rate. We want mortgage-backed securities going higher. We want yields going lower because that's better for the consumer. In a couple hours, when the Fed, and this is obviously, it is Wednesday, June 12th, while we're having this conversation. So unless you're listening live on Facebook, this is old news. But once we see the Fed rate decision and then their press conference afterwards, we'll see another market reaction after that. I don't know for sure where it'll go because I don't know what they're going to say. I'm going to say negative things because that always works out in our client's favor.
I like that, Joey Nostradamus right there. That's like
100.
You're going to upset the equilibrium if he does it on purpose, though.
the only thing I hear from Joey saying right now is I'm thinking about Caddyshack, and let's just work with the slice, and he ends up turning Rodney Dangerfield the other way around to get that. Wow.
That's how I golf, man. That's how I golf.
Hard right turn. Poor Patrick's confused. I don't think he saw Caddyshack, Joey.
I feel like that's Caddyshack 2.
Is it? It is Caddyshack 2. Is it? No, I don't know. No, it's Caddyshack 1.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
We'll
Put a bet on it, and I know Devin will let us know.
It's a funny golf movie. Let's go with that.
There it is.
I like
Sounds
that.
good.
I'm a gopher. I'm a gopher guy. I like it.
So one big question I got for you, Joey, is I want to know the difference between MPR and MPS.
Man, I'm guessing MPS is going to be FHA, right? Minimum property standards. There you go. All right. So we got FHA minimum property standards. VA has minimum property requirements. Now, the thing about these is that while there are some that are stated straight away in the VA Lender Handbook or in the FHA 4001, which are our guides, everyone has access to these things, which is why I can't figure out how lenders can be so bad at this job. It's all in front of you. You can literally look it up. Hit that Control F. Learn how to use Control F. It is the most handy tool that you have at your disposal on your keyboard. It's Control F. Right?
I'm a Mac user. It's Command F.
Shut up.
Sorry, Command F.
So I got an even better idea. Okay, so Control F, that might be a little difficult for some of the people who are doing your work. But no, so as I was explaining earlier to Charlie and Karen, I am in the middle of way catching up on my CLE, my continuing education. And so every night I'm like, got the earbuds in listening to there's nothing worse, okay, than these presentations that these lawyers do, because I'm just thinking to myself, have you ever persuaded anyone of anything? It's just like this monotone. So then they've got every slide they have. So I'm going off because this is my world right now. Every PowerPoint slide that they're little tiny in the corner of the screen, and it's just a slide with like the text from a statute for like 5 minutes, the same GD1, and it's just like, y'all, stop it. You got it. Like something's up. I feel like there's an opportunity for me to have my own company where I have actually people with real charisma that you might actually want to learn from. Anyways, the point is, I did listen to one about AI, and I did learn something. So what you can do, take the guidebook, okay, each page, you convert it to a JPEG. and then you give it to ChatGPT, and then you can ask questions of ChatGPT about it. So, Joey,
I didn't know that's cool.
Yeah, no, it is kind of interesting. So, Joey, you can call these people even dumber because they can't just, feed the thing into ChatGPT and just ask it a couple of questions. It'll tell you.
Yeah, but the only problem when it does tell you with ChatGPT, if you don't have it programmed right, it's going to say, the very great, fantastic, magnificent piece of photo that you documented up here looks outstandingly, cautiously, fantastically in good shape. They come up with more. I'm sorry, I am not a ChatGPT lover. I guess I'm a hater. But it's like every time I read this stuff, I'm like, who is this?
Right.
It's nowhere near me. And it's like there's more fluff words and all that stuff. But I hear what you're saying.
Here's what you need. You need to go to a website called promptpal.net. Okay.
Nice.
Because it's going to one thing, it's a garbage in, garbage out situation that you're describing, and you must be prompting it by saying,
I put everything in my brain in, so that's the garbage in.
No, you're probably just like, hey, tell me a funny joke, and it's like, what's it supposed to do with that?
No, I tell it to rewrite something without making me look like I'm stealing it. Sorry. That is sarcasm.
So
I don't go that way. You know what? Let's get back on
task.
task.
It's a tool to avoid plagiarism. We were on I derailed Joey because Joey's like, the job is so simple. We've got this handbook. Just go to the handbook, and now you got the circular, and it should be pretty simple to look at an appraisal and go, this is what the NPR NPSs are, right?
Hey, and I agree with that, Joey. I'm sorry to interrupt you real quick, and then I'm going to give it right back to you. But, there are some words in those NPRs and NPSs that are difficult to understand, but most of it is a light read. And what I mean by difficult, I didn't know, and Joey, you got to back me up on this. We didn't know what a privy was, right? And Karen's giving me the old nod head, and Patrick over here is grinning because I'm sure he knows what it means.
No, privy, isn't that? That's
well, he's Irish
bathroom.
and Scottish. I mean, he has to know what it means.
It's a toilet. The privy, right?
Well, I only know
it?
this because we've talked about this before. But yeah, Karen, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
It's an outhouse, right? It's a hole with a bunch of human waste.
So now we know that privies are not allowed in the NPRs or the NPSs. For FHA and VA.
I feel like ChatGPT could have told you that also. Like it's gonna know what a privy is.
But they would put all those colorful metaphors in there too.
Well, it might use a swear word or two as well.
My point. I learned that from Star Trek. So Karen, tell me when you're listing a house and you have a buyer for your seller, and they're coming across as a VA, mortgage and stuff like that. Is that something that makes you hesitate? Or an FHA, do you hesitate on accepting that offer if you have a choice?
Oh, there's a loaded question.
It is a loaded question.
Very much so.
Good luck answering this one,
Well,
Karen.
yeah, well,
And
first of
I'll
all,
argue with you if you say absolutely.
right. Well, first of all, we do, before we even list the property, we go and, tour the property, and we kind of eyeball the property to see if there are any things that if we are going to open it up, because you do in the MLS have the option to put cash only, conventional, and FHA or VA. Yeah. So you can actually click on
as
those.
Is.
So what I would do is we go and we take a look at the property, and anything. I've been in some situations. I'm not as experienced with VA, but FHA certainly. And so we just kind of look at the things, tripping hazards, chipping paint, broken glass, things like that, and anticipate what we're going to have to do. You're obviously opening up your buyer pool, making it larger if you make it very broad as far as the type of financing that you're going to put in your listing. But we just kind of try and get ahead of that.
As I understand it, the M in NPR, MPS is doing a lot of work.
The minimum?
Yeah. Because, there's, Karen, you listed three things, and that's, basically the three things that an appraiser is going to point out. And, Joey, let me ask you this question. This is a softball, so, hopefully I didn't just blow it. But, right. Oh, boy, did I lose my train of thought? I just lost my train of thought.
The minimum.
The minimum.
You were talking about.
Love it.
And then you want to ask Joey.
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay. So I've had this, and I'm sure, Joey, you've had this more than I have, where people go and ask them if they're going to have an inspection. And they go, "No, I'm good. I'm a VA borrower, and the appraisers got me." Is that a wise thought to have?
Can someone make sure Charlie's head doesn't explode while I answer this? Right? All right. So
I'm just
the
abba-dabbing
appraisers are
over
not
here.
gods.
There's like steam coming out from the headphones.
I
It's
know.
crazy.
God.
And
So I'm gonna say this up front. Always get an inspection. Always get an inspection. Right? Just because you say that you're buying it as is does not mean that you have to buy it. If you get the inspection and there's more problems than you expected, then you can still back out of that contract in your attorney review period. Okay?
Yeah.
So get your inspection. Protect yourself. The VA appraisers are not gods. They are not inspectors. They are somewhat trained in what the minimum property standards or requirements are, right? So they will go into the house and they will check certain things, and they will make sure that they believe that it is acceptable for that type of financing. What I will say as well is that because they are not gods, I have had so many appraisals come back subject to BS conditions. I'm allowed to say BS because I didn't say the word.
Well, you're doing better than Steve did last week when he just 5 minutes in. It's,
yeah, there was a lot of bleeping.
that was a funny one. Keep going. Sorry.
No, it's fine. So, and man, I feel like every time that I'm not on, that's the week Steve's on. I gotta figure out his schedule.
Well, you've been avoiding him. We know.
Anyway. No, so when things come up that aren't actual minimum property requirements, and this happens, and this is important because the VA, outside of the minimum property requirements, right, they go by code, all right? So I have one going on right now where the home was built many years ago. Electrical has never been updated. At the time that they built, they used Romex wiring. In Illinois, it's a conduit state. Thank you, electrician unions, right? So,
all right, I gotta argue that a little bit.
No, I'm with Joey.
It's only the Chicagoland area. It's not the entire state. All right.
okay, no, I like that. I'm good with that because I did not know that until you just said it.
It's
all right,
unions.
I assumed it was a statewide thing.
Yeah, we do not have a state
Conduit-
electrical code.
Plumbing, yes.
So at the end of the day, if the electrical has not been upgraded since it was built, and it was built to code, even if the appraiser calls out, hey, this is Romex wiring, we need conduit because the code in this area, blah, 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 I can get that waived because at the time that the electrical was last updated, it was up to code. And this literally just came up. I got the contract because of that knowledge, okay? So when things come up that an appraiser points out that aren't required, I go to the veteran. I say, hey, technically, this is not something that's required. And the veteran has to agree that they're willing to proceed with a waiver to get the property. So they sign a waiver saying that I don't believe this is an MPR. Can we please have it removed from what's called the notice of value? So then we are able to proceed with the loan as is, even though the appraisal still will say subject to technically, right? It's just, it's little things that people don't know and what appraisers believe they know for sure. And appraisers are usually going to err on the side of caution, and they'll just start knocking things out. Trip hazards, right? In Chicago, there's a lot of sidewalks.
Every sidewalk is uneven.
Exactly. I had one where they hit me for a sidewalk and a slow drain. I was like, all right, this is insane. If this was actually an MPR, no home in Chicago would be under a VA loan right now.
Seriously.
Period.
Exactly.
Right?
Hey, can I jump in and add to what you were talking about, the electrical stuff and the code? Because I have this conversation multiple times with our clients. The codes are specifically written that when they change, you do not, there is no requirement, there never has been, there never will be, a requirement to bring things up to current standards unless you actually are upgrading or changing rules. So if I put in a new electrical system, now I have to do it to new standards. But otherwise, as long as I leave it alone and I don't have to do it, there's nothing there that says it. Now, with that being said, there are a few of those in there where we actually have Illinois laws. So like we have an Illinois smoke alarm law. So even though smoke alarms are covered in the National Electric Code, you know, the the Illinois smoke alarm law and carbon monoxide alarm law take precedence over that, and everybody has to comply with those laws, all right, to what they currently are. I think that's important, but, you know, just adding on also, Joey, to what you said is that it's the knowledge, all right? That's what it is. It isn't just, you know, look it up or learn. Well, I guess it is, but if you don't take the time to try and educate yourself on these rules, then you're not doing your client justice, and you're not doing yourself justice, because that's money you're losing when it comes to it.
Take the rules.
You're not doing your partners justice.
Exactly.
If your partners don't know, if your realtor partners don't know, how many loans die because of a lack of knowledge?
Right.
I would
Honestly.
say most of them, you know, where it comes to that point. Well, no, they shouldn't get
significant,
to
yeah.
that point,
No.
is where I'm saying.
No.
You know, and Karen, jump in on
Yeah,
this
no,
as
and
well.
I think that's where having the conversation, like, and preempting any of, you know, the pitfalls that could come up. And so, you know, I pick up the phone. Like, if we had an offer on a place and it was a VA borrower, and so I picked up the phone and I spoke with one of the lenders, actually a couple of lenders that I've worked with, and, you know, just kind of like, you know, let's talk this through. And these are some of the obvious things that, you know, I'm anticipating that we're going to have to deal with. And so we're going to take care of that before we even get to the appraisal point. And then, you know, you have that conversation. So, I mean, I am, you know, like when we're going through our CE and when I, you know, was getting my license, I mean, yes, we have to be very well-rounded in our knowledge base and know, like, what goes on with the attorney review, what goes on with, you know, the appraisal process and all of that. But I will I will never rely strictly on my memory or understanding what I think I understand about the process. And I always pick up the phone and talk to a lender.
No, I think because things do change, of course, and we're not meant to keep up with every single change in the lending industry. I mean, I tell people.
Sometimes I hear things wrong.
Well, no, I mean, look, sometimes I'll understand something and then something will change and I didn't get notice of it.
Exactly.
Because evidently I'm not needed to be notified about everything, which, you know, I
But
don't
isn't
know.
that what this whole relationship business is about?
Yes.
Well, I rely on the profession. I think what Karen, I'm just going to repeat what Karen's saying differently. You know, it's important to recognize what your expertise is and what someone else's expertise is. I mean, you know, when it comes to the loan, I just, you know, my assumption is the lender gets to do their job. I'm not doing it for them. You know, so some people, you know, they're like addicted to follow up because, I don't know, they've got like a spare moment in the day and they feel like they're going to follow up after they followed up 8 hours ago. You know, unless it's become pretty clear that someone, you know, either something fell off their radar or, you know, something's not proceeding the way I'm expecting it, then maybe I'll follow up, you know, and say, you know, hey, are you doing your job? I say it differently because that's kind of rude, but otherwise, you know, I let Charlie do his job.
Right.
Uh,
I let Karen do her job. I'm not meant to. Most of the homes that I will handle transactions, I will never see in person. I will
But
never
this
see him
is
in
my
person.
argument to that. I know that there's attorneys that don't know their job. I know there's mortgage people out there that don't know their job, and I know there's real estate agents that don't know their job, and I know there's home inspectors that really don't know their job as well as they should be. So I try to learn all of your jobs. Am I going to be as good as you? Hell no. But at least I'm going to be able to recognize that BS when I see it come across my desk.
Right.
Everyone's
You know?
just talking BS today. You know, it's a BS day. Hey, can I do something real quick? Can I do something real quick? Yeah, we're not quite there yet. Joey, I would like to trigger you momentarily and tell me if I'm out of line here. But why is it that the VA can get it right when it comes to you know, treating its home loans the way it ought to, and it can't get anything else right? What is up with that?
Why? Yeah, you know what? It's a fantastic question. I'm really excited they are good at home loans. Right?
Thank God. Thank
the
God,
healthcare
right?
system is garbage.
But we have, Joey, I know that I personally had deals that got crushed, you know, right after the inspection process because things in the loan officer said it the first time, it just, for a VA, it didn't go through. I sent them in your direction, and you're like, no, that's wrong, this is what needs to be done. Boom, boom, boom. The check marks are completed. And then this person gets the house that they wanted. All right? It's not that we're trying to manipulate the system. It's just you got to know the rules. There's not that many of them. Just
Joey's
know the
got
rules.
the book. He's got the book.
Very bluntly.
How many
very
copies
bluntly,
of this book exist, Joey? Are you like? Do you have? Are you one
master
of
copy.
the only copies, or is it available elsewhere?
No, it's crazy because everything can be Googled, right? Just make sure you're Googling the right thing. It's the VA pamphlet 26 tax 7. It's the VA Lander Handbook. It's available to everybody.
Can I bing
sign
it?
up for the circular, so it's go for it. You could Bing it. You could Yahoo it. You could dogpile it.
Dogpile it?
All of
Wait
it.
a minute.
DuckDuckGo.
I don't think.
Yeah, DuckDuckGo. All of them.
Yeah. I mean,
If it's the search engine, it'll have it. But at the end of the day,
Charlie's taking me
right?
already.
So I unfortunately I have to lean on this kind of hard, but the average loan officer in the United States closes 3 or less VA loans a year. About 90% of LOs close less than 3 VA loans a year. All right. I can tell you right now, I have had 6 VA closings this week, and I have significantly more over the course of the next couple months. I did 9 VA pre-approvals yesterday. It's just, this is where I live. This is,
Experience matters,
better.
and it's frustrating to watch people go through the process in a way that is, I think ultimately, Joey, and correct me if I'm stepping out of line by saying this, but it's like it sounds to me like your frustration is that each time one of these LOs f's up a VA loan, it damages the reputation of VA loans unnecessarily.
But it also puts a veteran out of a house that they could have had otherwise.
There's a
right?
whole lot of bad.
I mean, that's the bigger thing. Mm-hmm. I hate that the reputation for the VA loan is so poor because it is. And you know what? I got a text message this morning from a guy who this is his 4th house. His last 3 houses he bought conventional because he was told it was way easier. There was less red tape, all kinds of crap, right? He's clear to close. He's closing in a couple days, Monday. And he texted me this morning. He was like, dude, this was by far the easiest loan experience I've ever had. And I was like, man, it's a reputation it doesn't deserve. It's people that don't close enough VA, that don't focus on it. Because, if you're making your money elsewhere, why are you going to worry about this other loan? You're just going to take it on, and if it closes, it closes, whether you know anything about the thing or not, about the VA loan or not, right? So
I would equate that to the same thing
on a
as
Wednesday.
I would equate that to the same thing as having one of those evildoer divorce attorneys trying to do real estate.
Yeah,
all right? They're sticking what you know, or
stay in your
learn
lane.
another one. Either way, and same thing with real estate.
Absolutely. Well, I have this listing, and I was talking to Charlie about it earlier, but I have a listing, Joey, and the person who put the offer in first was a VA borrower, and I had a bunch of brokers, with the brokers open, basically telling me, oh, it's never going to pass. That's never going to pass VA. That's never going to pass VA. It's never going to get through. And so had I listened to them, instead of calling these lenders, as I mentioned earlier, to talk it through with them, I would have been probably just gone and advised my seller to say, like, yeah, let's wait for, a different buyer with a different loan,
We got Joey Abadavin over here. That's good.
Yeah.
It's not always easy to do. Joey, give us your contact information, please.
Yep, Joey Mathews, the VA Loan Nerd. You can find me at thevaloannerd.com, and the website actually should be launching by Friday.
Yay.
It's going to be very informative, lots of videos, lots of blogs, lots of vlogs, lots of education. And then across social media is at the VA Loan Nerd, and you can call or text me at 630-235-2405. Email me at info@thevaloannerd.com.
Let me know if you need any, materials for photos and pictures and things like that, that I can help you with that sort of stuff. Patrick, please.
Love it. Yes.
Patrick Loftus, real estate lawyer, Loftus Law, unapologetic VA loan advocate. Find me on social media, on Instagram, Loftus_law. Find me on TikTok, Loftus Law.
Sounds good. Karen, please.
Okay, my name is Karen Byrne. I'm with App Properties, and you can call me or text me at 708-203-4474. I am on social media. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Facebook, at My Broker Karen.
I like that name. My name is Charlie Bellefontaine. I own Chicagoland Home Inspectors. Our website is www.thehomeinspectors, that's plural, O-R-S, and it's a .com. We also train home inspectors, and we own Home Inspection University of Illinois. We also do CEs. If you're interested in getting into the home inspection profession, please reach out and let me do everything I can to help you. But understand that when I come into this business, I know that 80% of real estate brokers and home inspectors are going to fail in the first 2 years, and they're not gonna renew their license. That's just a common stat that happens in there. So I'm going to be very picky about know as much as you can, know your job as good as you can, because that's really the only way you're going to last when it comes in here. Now, you did mention something, that was a little bit intriguing, and I want to try and figure out, is this helpful or not helpful? So hypothetically, let's just say we got a house. You mentioned something that other brokers looked at a house, and they said there's no way that this is going to pass a VA inspection, all right? And yet it does. Let's say the inspector or the appraiser, and let's make that absolutely clear. There is no such thing as a VA inspector, all right? It's the actual appraiser that does the inspection. I think it used to be called a quality valuation or something like that. And the list that they're looking for is very short where it comes in there. So, but let's just say we know that there's like rotted wood or there's broken windows or missing handrails, and none of those get recognized by the appraiser and they just sign off on everything. I'd love to hear from all three of you. Do you feel this is a good thing or is this a bad thing? I mean, and they're easily fixable items. Let's say they're not expensive.
Yeah, if there's one broken window, I'm probably advising my client to walk away. It's just not.
Stop being a smart aleck. I know better.
I mean, look, these are decisions that are complex, and you've got to look at it holistically. And sometimes a buyer will get really frustrated when a seller is not treating them fairly or doing. Usually, the way it comes out is, aren't they supposed to do this? It's like, well, supposed to. That doesn't exist. Every transaction is different. Every seller is different, and
people aren't perfect.
If they elect not to fix the broken window pane, you go, all right, as Charlie is so fond of saying, how much and who pays? Well, if I'm paying, then the question is how much. And Joey, maybe you can shed some light on this. I recall many years ago I had a transaction where we had a fairly significant MPR thing that was called out on the VA appraisal. They wanted the chimney taken down and rebuilt, and it was going to be pretty expensive. And what we ended up doing, I think we ended up escrowing some money, and then the veteran had that work done, and then it was paid for out of the escrow. Is that an option in terms of being able to get around an obstinate seller?
Depending on the weather, right? Can you get that done with an escrow holdback? If it is too cold for mortar to really set properly and do the work, then you can absolutely do an escrow holdback. I would probably dig deeper into the chimney. I mean, was it very clearly a chimney that was going to fail?
Joey, I've never seen the property in person. I never will.
Well, you get pictures, right? Right?
I can't. I mean, look, I can't tell.
I don't think the appraisers take pictures when they flag something, do they?
Well,
it might have come up in the home inspection.
They always have to. Well, they should be.
Yeah, I mean, look, I see a lot of pictures of masonry that is in various levels of deterioration, and when is the moment that it desperately needs tuck pointing? Is it the day before it collapses, or is it a year before it's ready to have that happen? And from a picture, there's only so much I can tell.
Yeah, I mean, to answer your question, yeah, you can do an escrow holdback for a repair of that nature. You would have to get an estimate from a contractor who does that type of work, and typically a lender is going to hold 1.5 times whatever the invoice is for, right? And then once the work is done, once the work is done, go back out, get the pictures of the repair, send it in, and then the VA issues their guarantee once the work is complete.
Can you do
or
that
the
with
FHA
FHA
issues
as
their
well?
insurance.
Or no, that's not. You can't do that with FHA. So they fix it or not.
In situations like this, it's really going to be weather dependent. Can the work be done? Obviously, a big one is paint, chipped paint in the winter, right? No one's going to be painting outside in the winter, period. So you can have an escrow holdback last from freaking the end of November until the first warm few weeks of March or April, right? That's what they're most concerned about with approving escrow holdbacks. And it has to be the lender who approves it.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we do escrow holdbacks for, decent periods of time, mainly as it pertains to, when we've got real estate tax credits that we're not sure about, which that's a whole nother headache that no one really wants me to talk about because at 6 a.m. on a Saturday, someone's going to fall asleep and run their car off the road, and, now I'm going to get sued. That's not good.
Don't behave.
Oh, really?
You did mention
I never thought about that end.
You mentioned something, Joey, about one and a half times.
1.5 times they hold back. So if the invoice is $500, they're going to hold $750, and whoever does the work, they're going to send the proof that they completed the work and the finalized invoice. And if it ends up being $700, they get paid $700, and whoever had the funds held from them gets a check for $50 from the title company.
Okay, so it ends up that it gets split up afterwards. So, Karen,
Correct.
What's your take on this stuff again? When you see, let's reword the question. Let's say that you're selling a house and the buyers bring in a private home inspector such as myself, and I start calling out things as being wrong, but yet you're suspicious. You don't believe that they're wrong. All right. And many times I've gone over reports. Home inspectors make mistakes and they think that, something is a defect when it's like, no, that's a proper cure, where it comes to it. What is your take on stuff like that?
So as far as advising my sellers, how to...
Yeah, and how to negotiate or come back to that, or how do you combat it, I guess?
Well, I work a lot with the attorney and have, all three have, the seller and their attorney and myself. And just, again, what's reasonable. Now, in the situation where you have an FHA or a VA, obviously, like I had a FHA situation, I was on the list side, and it was in the spring, so at a time when chipping paint could be addressed. And I had sellers that absolutely refused. I bought this 5 years ago, and I was FHA, and the garage was exactly like that. So, no, I'm not doing anything. And I'm like, well, can I come over and do it?
I've had buyers sneak over and do it when you've got a seller that won't.
I have too.
When it comes to scraping and doing a little dab of paint, it's like, come on.
This is what's going to hold it up. And so, basically having to have that conversation as... Okay, so you can say no, and then that buyer is going to walk away, and the deal goes away.
And now the purchase that you are under contract for is in jeopardy because now you have to hope that the seller on that end will accept another 30 days, which, what's the chances of that? I mean,
aren't you giving away leverage too?
In what sense?
In the sense that, the MLS is going to show that the house was for sale, that the house was pending under contract, and then it was canceled and put back on the market again.
Yeah.
Doesn't that take away leverage from the seller or not?
Well, I mean, yeah, it can. I mean, but like in that situation where I had, we had an FHA buyer, and if my client said, okay, no, we're going to kill the deal, we're going to throw it back out, and now what happened? A lot of times, we'll put in there that, financing issue. I mean, it could be something like that. As an explanation.
It still seeds it seeds a little bit of a kernel of doubt. I just had a conversation yesterday with a client and with their agent, and it was like, it's an as-is contract, and we all know how that goes. There's a lot of gray area when it comes to that, and so. Come to find out, the property had been under contract at some point, and then was not under contract anymore. And you go, oh, okay, it's been on the market for this many days, and you go, all right, we've got a little bit more as is leverage than maybe we think. And what's the seller going to say? We're not going to go overboard and be like, yeah, I need a $10,000 price reduction and replacement of all the mechanicals in this as-is transaction. But we found some leaks in the basement. We found the sump pump's not quite working the way it's supposed to. There's no check valve on the ejector pump. Let's get in there. Let's get something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, and I think it depends on to the market. Now, when we have multiple offer situations, as we've had, it's a totally different thing. I mean, I don't know if I told you guys about this, but I was in the heat of the multiple offer situation. It was like right after we kind of came out of shutdown, and it was just going crazy. And I had buyers, and we had looked at a number of properties, hadn't put any offers in. They found this house that they could absolutely work with, and we put an offer in as is, and there were 20 other offers.
Nice.
We were one of 3, it turned out, that were as is. The people that offered up more money ended up getting under contract, and so we were like, okay, we'll just keep our eye on this. Sure enough, they get through their inspection, and that buyer starts asking for a bunch of stuff. Now, that seller knows we had 20 other offers, and we had a couple other that,
have no leverage. Absolutely.
So so in that situation, there was no conversation. This seller was like, kill the deal, move on. We're going to go to the other 2 that were as is. And so luckily, she called me first. I was texting my client. They said, yes, absolutely. And so we went ahead and we went with it. And it's about having conversations, setting expectations with your buyers that this is what it is.
You need to repeat that, please.
Yeah.
Say it again.
Setting expectations and having conversations.
And consistently exceeding those expectations. Don't just assume that they are what they are. And I don't know.
Well,
Joey,
and I'm sorry, let me just jump in here. I'm such a big advocate. The more I sit here and talk to real estate brokers, of having a very, open line of communication between the attorney and the broker, because I can't tell you how many lawyers they take the contract and they shove the broker to the side and they go, this is mine now. And they either think they're going to go into hero mode or whatever it is, and they and the client cook up some crazy thing. And now as the seller's lawyer, I'm getting this letter, and it's a little bit out of line, and I call up the broker. I go, you see that? And they're like, yeah. So let me tell you why. We were stuck 10,000 apart, and so this $10,000 list is very I recognize where this is coming from, and I go, great. Call the seller. I go, we're saying no, and then you say no, and the buyer goes, shoot.
Thank you for trying.
Yeah, but it's like, read the room, man. If that lawyer who sends that over, and it happens, I mean, I'm sure you've seen it more than a few times.
Oh, yeah.
I certainly have. If that lawyer had a conversation with that broker on the other side, and they still sent the letter, I guess you're sending
you do what your client wants you to do,
a hope
don't
and
you?
a prayer. Well, but a lot you advise the client.
Right, but if they don't want your advice and they wanted you just to do what they tell them to do,
yeah, but
you're gonna not like it, but you're gonna do it.
That's less the case than a client actually listening to you when you give them what you think is sound advice.
Yes, and that's where the trust comes in, and just having the open conversations.
But you gotta have that trust that comes in there. And Joey, I know that you meet new real estate agents all the time when you go through these transactions and that. How hard is it to make that cold call, I guess, if that's the right term, to the listing agent when your client is going with the VA, so you could kind of help them understand what a good loan this is? And I know you do it. That's why I said that.
For sure. And for me, it's easy just because I do it so much. One, I kind of want to gauge their experience with VA. That way I can help direct the conversation and talk about the things that they may or may not believe are issues with VA. I talk about, one, the strength of the client, because, again, I've never had a pre-approval get denied, right? It's not my wheelhouse. I won't act like, certain online companies are like, oh, here you go. You told us you made $600,000 a year. It turns out you make $6 million. letting them know how well vetted the client is, because that's number one. Financing is going to go through. And then we talk about the house and specifically the appraisal process, because there's also a big misunderstanding about VA appraisals always coming in low. They don't, right? In fact, they come in at value or higher at a higher clip than FHA or conventional, according to Ellie Mae data. And I say Ellie Mae data because Ellie Mae is a company that created a program called Encompass, which is origination software that most lenders in the country use. And honestly, I'm not a fan of Encompass, but it does have, a lot of data in there. So it can actually track the data for what appraisals are coming in, what type of loan it is it at value, all that good stuff, right? So I also talk about the appraisal appeal process, because the VA is the only one with a two-tier appeal process. You got Tidewater up front. That's like a normal conventional or FHA appeal, where you are talking with the appraiser, sending them the comps that you think are better comps, and then the appraiser saying, no, my work is better than your work. I'm not changing anything, right? Because that's usually what happens, which is why FHA and conventional have a lower than 10% appeal success rating. After Tidewater is completed, if the appraisal is not increased, we go and take the appraiser out of the equation, and we submit right to the VA in a reconsideration of value. They have 5 business days to get back to us on the reconsideration of value. That, on its own, has a 72% success rate and an average average increase of value at $26,000, which, in my experience in the Chicagoland area, is usually enough to get you over that hump. Usually. Right? So,
Patrick's grinning when he said usually.
Where you're at.
Well, Joey, do you? Yeah. When you get that win from the VA, do you go back to the appraiser and go? Oh
my God!
I would.
No. I do keep a spreadsheet though for appraisers. When I see an appraiser assigned, I keep a spreadsheet on my own so I can see what they have done in the past with my own deals in Chicagoland, and if they have a history of coming in low, if they have a history of taking the full 10 business days that the VA allows them to take. I take that into consideration, and then I'm able to update everyone like, hey, this guy got assigned. He's usually getting me appraisals back in, 8.7 business days, right? Or if it's someone who always turns them in within 2 business days, I'm like, hey, they don't have to, but this guy usually turns in really quickly.
Boy, I know who I'm going to when I have a question about an appraiser. I don't have a spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any say-so on who the appraiser is?
No. So all we do is we submit the order to the VA, and then the VA assigns out the appraiser based on their current workload.
And how many are there? Like, let's say in the Chicagoland area.
There's new ones coming on and off all the time.
All right. So it's not like it's 20.
There's a good amount, though.
We're in the hundreds.
That was one of the big changes. Joe, I think you've been in the business long enough to remember the days when you kind of could get the appraiser you wanted.
Oh, absolutely.
Wink, wink. Now
I got into the business originally when I was still in the Marine Corps. Back in 2005, I was doing loans. Probably not the best thing in the world. I did 2 loans in Iraq. Not a good idea.
Do they have? What's the real estate market in Iraq like? Oh, you were doing loans for the U.S.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What I want to know is the rifle and the computer. How did they hook up together?
Well, I did too, and I was like, dude, I am in charge of 13 guys' lives right now. I need to give this job up, especially because I saw what was happening with my company. They changed names 3 times, and then they were out of business. They were a subsidiary of Countrywide. So, good time. But,
I used to do a lot of 203Ks for them.
Say no more.
Oh, yeah. Back in those days, I had a guy named Vlad. I would just call Vlad. I'd be like, "Hey, you got to make sure that you get this price on this property."
Hold on a second here. Did you just say Vlad like Vladimir? You talked to Putin?
Vova.
It wasn't that guy.
Oh,
Vlad.
Okay. Well,
this guy was significantly less wealthy, and he lived in the U.S., so there was that. But yeah, it's a completely different ballgame. It's the same way with conventional. We can't pick our appraiser on conventional either. We order an appraisal through an appraisal management company who assigns the appraisal out. So it's like a double blind thing. We put it out for bid to the AMCs. The AMC picks it up, and then they put it out to their appraisers. And then we just find out who it is down the line, right?
Which is probably better, except when you get an appraiser like, for a condo in Edgewater and the guy is primarily doing single-family detached homes in Aurora.
That's why I always ask every time I meet an appraiser. I bring comps, I bring a list of the improvements, and I ask how much business have you done in this area?
Yeah.
What happens if they say this is
Where do
my
you
first
live?
one?
If they say it's their
very
first
first
one, then I take that and we have a little conversation on with my seller and
To
I
set
mean
their
because if it comes in
expectations.
set the expectations and also if they do come in low, we have that information too.
Do you do anything, Patrick, differently? And by the way, we have 3 minutes left.
Do I do anything differently?
When it comes to an FHA or VA mortgage?
Well, when we get the inspection in, if I see something that I think is going to be picked up as a minimum property requirement, I'll usually include that in the inspection request and indicating to them, yes, I know I'm not supposed to ask for paint, but it's an FHA or a VA. You might as well do it so we don't have to pay for an extra trip out with the appraiser. Or
Let's address that real quick from Joey, because I agree that's a great idea. Joey, what items do require a second trip to visualize or see these things?
On FHA, anything that has to be repaired, that gets called out. The appraiser has to go back out. FHA will require the appraiser to go back out.
Yep.
On VA, only thing that has to go back out is paint issues on a house built prior to 1978.
Okay, and when did they decide if they're going to accept an FHA certification?
Say again, when did they decide?
Yeah, like for example, instead of the appraiser going out, they're going to request a roofing certification.
So a repair like that, they're going to ask to see an invoice from, and this is going to be the same thing on VA. Even if we're only taking a picture with VA and sending it in, we're also going to request the invoice to show that the work was done in the work was done in a workmanlike manner by a professional, right? And if it's a freaking roof that's collapsing or falling in, whatever, not falling in, but tiles, things of that nature, they're gonna want to see that it was done professionally. So you'll get an invoice, all that good stuff.
But the appraiser still has to go back out.
The appraiser still has to go back out on FHA. On VA, I have seen a $20,000 roof repair that we just self-certified with the paid a receipt to the roofing company that handled the work.
Sounds good. Joey, give us your contact information. We're getting towards the end. I just want to go around the horn again.
Yes, sir. Joey Mathews, the VA Loan Nerd. You can find me at thevaloannerd.com across all social media as at the VA Loan Nerd. You can call or text me at 630-235-2405.
I had keyed up the Joey music here for you, and I kept forgetting to
Hey, you
play
said
it.
fast. You said fast.
I did. Well, I didn't say fast. I said we're getting towards the end of the time. Patrick, can you give us your information? I'm going to give you the Joey music.
Still trying to find out where this horn is that we're going around. My name is Patrick Loftus. I am a real estate lawyer with Loftus Law. Find me on social media. Instagram, Loftus_law. If you're listening and not watching, that's LOF like Frank, T like Tom, US like Sam. _law on Instagram. On TikTok at Loftus Law.
Outstanding. And I'm not going to do that to you, Karen.
What? I'm the smooth jazz broker.
There it is.
Smooth
I'm
jazz
right back
broker.
up again. Give us your contact info,
So I am Karen Byrne. That's Byrne. And I am with That Properties. And you can call me at 7 or text me at 708-203-4474. Social media, pretty much all of them at my broker Karen. And I look forward to working with all of you people out there listening.
You people.
please. Sounds good. I want to give a thank you to Devin Tingle. He's our producer of the show. And my name is Charlie, and I'm out.